Hello everyone and welcome to my oil painting class. Today we're painting stays and some little cottages in one of the small little streets of this beautiful small town in the East Coast. Now I'm interested today. We recently were painting a bit of Italian townscape, and it's very similar kind of the warmth of the buildings, the lovely contrast. And I'm very much interested to find those light and dark patterns. So I've got some really bold whites or lights, bit more softer. There's still it's a shadow, but such a bold, strong white sits against some of the darker shadows. Some beautiful rooftops, gorgeous blue sky. So light and dark, warm and cool. So we've got some big chunks of warm. Some of the shadows of the white houses might be cool. Okay. And then plain and textured surfaces. So we've got almost nothing is changing on the big segments or even the sky. We've got almost a flat color. And then we've got suddenly some texture, or we've got some pattern, or we've got some lovely texture on the trees or on the bushes there, some plants. And then vertical and horizontal or kind of semi-horizontal directions. And I'd like us to do a sketch today by looking at horizontal and vertical kind of patterns. Okay, so looking at all of that, that's how I'd love us to start. So I'm using a dark background, dark kind of violet and ochre mixed together with a little bit of ochre. I think I ended up a little bit darker than I wanted, but I think it will be really good because we have got those dark tones. And if we work today sketching using some tone, a bit of line, but also a bit of tone, it will give us that, it will start building up kind of things will start, shapes of light will start popping up. Now on my palette, I have some warm colors and some cool colors. I've got some white and black, Payne's gray for black. So from warm ones, I have Naples yellow, cadmium yellow, ochre, magenta, violet. And from the cool colors, I have some emerald green, cerulean, and ultramarine. Right, and I'm going to probably have two brushes for sketching. I'll have one for a thinner one for a bit of darker line, because we have got loads of dark shadows. So I think if we'll work with slightly darker color, and maybe a flat brush or a larger brush, just to play some of the lighter tones as well. So I'll start with some of the darks, and then we'll move on with the light ones. So I'm going to use a bit of turbs first. And I'm going to go for some black, Payne's gray, and some violet. So I can see it on my board here. Okay, I can just check. Yep, we can see that. And let's plan, as I said, few vertical, few horizontal lines. So for example, the edge of the building right here on the left, not quite perfect vertical, but something just gently leaning probably towards the center down. Okay, let's just place them. Let's roughly find that width. Is that going to be the drain pipe? Is it going to be the corner? Is it going to be the corner of the white? So something within that area is going to be here. Okay, looks like it's a little bit wider at the top, maybe a little bit more narrow at the bottom. Not quite planning where it's finishing yet. Just a few of those lines first. Okay, let's place another vertical, almost vertical, maybe again just down a bit leaning line for the white cottage on the right hand side. You can just about see somewhere here. its rooftop will be coming, just again, small angle, just to give us an idea what's happening there. Any other vertical lines? There's a bit of light going on. I think it's some reflective surface. Maybe part of the window, maybe something stuck up here, maybe part of the garden fencing. So I might just place another angled line. Okay. Any other lines? Right, we've got a few rooftops. Let's identify where they're going to be roughly. Right, skyline. Okay, let's put this rooftop somewhere here. Can use the diagonal of my somewhere here. And we'll continue for all of them. It's kind of slightly changes, but more or less unites there together. Okay, let me just drop my box so it doesn't reflect at the top. Okay, just open up some color. My paint's reasonably runny, so it will absorb on the board or canvas a little easier. It might not perfectly absorb, but will just give it that. It's not going to smudge with a lot of black, so it's more violet in there as well. Right, so let's have a look at the skyline. So we've got this cottage here where that sky starts on the right. So I'm going to roughly place, I think it's might be a chimney there or a tree, I'm not sure, but there is a vertical line here. And then we've got a thinner, might just exaggerate how big that blue spot is going to be. Okay. And now we have a few horizontal lines, the semi-horizontal lines of the rooftops. So where they're going to be roughly. Okay. And again, almost vertical lines of where the rooftops changing. Yeah, so they're starting to so a taller building here, taller house, a little bit shorter one, or just how it sits. If you want to put those lovely chimneys in there, maybe we can place them there. I'll just place a little marker that something's going to go there. Little gap between the two houses again as a vertical line. Any other vertical lines, perhaps for the windows. Okay, a vertical line for this house. So anything else, maybe a little bit narrower. So it's having a feel for the space, having a feel for, excuse me, that range of lines. Maybe somewhere here, maybe we need to move it about, but for the moment, if I'll just place it across, maybe that would be slightly bigger. But as long as we've got those vertical lines, we can adjust things as we go after that. Okay, let's move this wall higher. Okay, so maybe all that one's going to be a bit shorter. Okay, some more vertical lines for some more windows. That's perhaps a wider door. Okay. And now I can see it better there. Okay. So let's Look for other shapes. Okay, right, we've got a path at the front, but it's obscured by the shadows. So all I can see is some horizontal lines of the light coming perhaps on the street. Okay, and it's almost breaking it down into exciting segments, slightly narrower, a bit bigger, much bigger. There'll be some highlights here. I don't see as much of the barriers. I think that perhaps there's some steps there, but not too clear. So I'd like to keep it more in the shadow and keep it that suggestive. Can extend my wall here. There will be a couple of pots. Again, the side of the pot will give me that almost horizontal line, but overall shape of it will give me that vertical. So something blocky across. Any other shapes here? The quicker the cottages you'll produce, the better. Staithes is full of them, full of that variety, some exciting colors, that unevenness of each building. I'm just finding another rooftop here. Maybe another window. So they don't have to be perfect. It's that lost and found edges. The windows not on the same level. You know, for example, if we're looking at the cottage here, it hasn't got the same height of the windows or the same level, because they've been built in different times or different owners or different extensions. So it wasn't architecturally planned. It was more domestic. That makes it exciting for us. Okay, do I need to move this window across on this building a little bit further in? Okay. It's a little bit harder to see, bear with me. We'll start working with a light shortly. Okay. Probably not gonna do much of the plants here at the moment with a line, because it's just loads of things going on. You can put maybe a rough shape against some of the lights, but I'm not too worried if we don't even do anything else with it. It's all gonna stay in this corner. There's another almost a little diagonal of light for the trees. Any other light changes of the greens? Okay, maybe something here. What we're not sure about, we keep blank or we keep it as it is without over suggesting shapes. That would be better rather than overthinking it and planning something that doesn't exist. Okay, that might be covered by the tree here as well. So keep it simple. Let's give you a moment to do your lines. Right, and let's do a little bit of sketching with a lighter tone. So here's my big brush, and I'm going to use some oil now, because it will be larger surfaces, and at the same time we almost like pre-paint, keep the surfaces a bit damp. So I've got my 3 oils together, and I'm going to use a little bit of Naples yellow, but it's quite runny. Okay, quite not runny, but oily, quite oily, so it will be quite transparent. Because I want to have almost like a preview of our lights. Some of our lights will be warmer, some of our lights will be cooler. So let's have a look at some of them larger lights of warmth. So for example, this a smaller building. So it's almost as if we're just skimming the surface, there are loads of texture. We'll apply more stronger color afterwards, but we're also planning. So I've applied that shape and I immediately can see actually it's not all the way down. There is a shadow there. So it means I can wipe it off and keep it there. So we're looking for those lovely patterns of light. Okay. Below this building, we can see maybe narrow a door, a shadow going horizontally. Okay. Again, all oily, it's all fine. Another little block of light. Maybe something light on top of the plants. I quite like that white, but might just make it not with ochre, but fresher white. So I'll keep it till slightly later. Right, we've got something on the pot reflecting. We've got something under the pot, and on the side, we can see probably that little fence giving us the patterns. If you just roughly place them, we can adjust how many of those patterns we want later. So at least it gives us that space. Just thinking if I were to put them a little higher, yes. We're just preparing, planning our patterns. There's something's happening here on the wall as well. Right, I'll make it a little bit shorter. There's a little bit of light on the wall. Okay, so we're just planning. This is our sketching planning of light and dark. There's something here on the maybe less significant than light, but there is definite light on the parts of the greens. Okay. Maybe there is to connect it a little more. So our dark background already supporting us. Right, I'll go up again. Anything else showing a little light? These lights are going to be different in tone between themselves, but overall there might be our stronger patterns of light those exciting blocks. Okay, rooftops. I might put a couple of lighter Naples yellow lights for the edges of the roofs here. And the actual rooftops themselves might just add a bit more extra red. But before I do that, while I'm on the same color, that glimpse of light, there's loads of boldness and reflective surfaces here. That's really quite interesting to work. Okay. And let's have that. So in creating these patterns, I'm looking, if that's a similar space as that one. No, that's good. That's going to be the similar thickness. So maybe I'll play with the texture of it, or maybe kind of how much it's going to be spreading. Okay, maybe something a little bit more for the wall here. Rooftops. I want to have a little bit magenta with some cadmium yellow here. Maybe a bit of extra white. Want it looking reddish, red-like. But it will be in places quite warm and places a little bit cooler. So let's start with the warm. And I just block it in. Okay. And the other rooftop. Okay, that corner reflects the same color. A little corner here. And a little something there. And a little red box here as well. But again, so far it's more of a place in a light. That redness might come in later on. Okay, it's a bit better as well. Now we've got an overall darken. Well, we haven't done the super whites there yet. I'm going to move into that one shortly. But we overall have done the patterns, and it's quite interesting to see most of them are horizontal patterns. We've got one vertical, and that will be that vertical and that vertical shape of cooler light, and that will kind of group it together. Yeah. But let's do our sky, and that will bring us to the larger shapes of white. So I'm gonna go quite thickly with my paint now, bigger brush. I'm gonna use the other side of white so it stays clean, doesn't get yellow in there. So a bit of white and cerulean blue. And as I said earlier, we can go for it as a block of blue sky. We only see a small line of it, so there's no need to do big changes of light and dark. If you wanted to make a little variety from left to right, that would be good, but it's not essential. Probably your mark making will create enough tension there. So now I can decide on my lines here. So for example, is that the edge of the roof? Do I need to make it matching with my pattern of the roof? Or is that a bank at the back? Okay, so I think, and that's going to stay the bank. That's going to be next to the roof. Suddenly we'll start having depths, tiny bit more darker tone. Perhaps tiny bit again lighter tone, going that way. So it's gentle variety, but nothing to overdo it here. So reasonably thick strokes, so then the paint can stay there. If it's a little bit transparent, that might be a good texture for you. If it's not, that's fine as well. Don't want that peak there, or don't want to get rid of it. Yeah, maybe just stay focused on the building here. Okay, good. And the reason I wanted to start with a darker blue than the volume of blue on our whites, on our cottages, because I wanted for us to see it. So for example, it's a white building here on the left-hand side. We can see it by that brightness of white, but its shadow looks quite dark and gray. But it's still a white building, okay? It's just that skimming light, that shadow is just turning, making it just slowly, more and more dark, or maybe just making slowly, lighter. If we look at the white on the top of the cottage somewhere here, there's a strong ultramarine there. Maybe this one will have a bit more ceruleum in it, maybe a little bit more, maybe even violet, and let's mix some of the colors, maybe violet and ochre there. Maybe that will have more darker blues, almost like indigo. So let's just identify those blues around those cottages. So I'm going to go for some ultramarine first. Okay, it's quite a dark color. We only need a dab of it in the corner here. If I'll make it too light, it will start competing with the darkness, or shall I say, with the light of the sky. So just make it slightly darker if you can. You need a tiny bit more black, but mainly the blue. Okay, I've got too much black now here. So mainly the blue. I want to see that darkness here. And now our black lines of our earlier sketch will be helping us, showing the edges of the rooftops or some of the borders. So that will start playing a part here. And then I'm going to go for a little bit of any paler blue or just a bit of white with my current color. It should again still stay darker, just within that darkness than the sky. That's why I made that corner of the sky slightly lighter. That kind of gives me a planning of putting slightly more darker blue here. Doesn't have to be super dark. Okay, that's good. So it's getting a tiny bit more lighter towards the top of that shape, tiny bit more darker towards its base. So it's a small shape, but it will play that lovely coolness technique, coolness pattern. Okay, happy with that. Let's leave this white building on the right hand side for the moment. I'm still making a decision on its color, but let's work on the left hand side one. So our indigo could be mixed from ultramarine and black. Okay, but it shouldn't be overly dark. Right, let's make it a little bit more lighter. Okay, so there's a warmer shadow somewhere here and almost up to the border. I'm going to slightly vary this corner. It's got lots of texture. It's got that extra darkness. You've got some bit of warmth coming from the window part of the fence. And there's a bit of metal, so it's reflecting extra. So if I'll just do small amounts in this area here, planning to bring other colors shortly. Okay. And it's also at the moment is quite light. We want to keep it as a shadow. So I'm gonna go now with a little extra ultramarine and Payne's Gray. And also double violet. Okay. And let's fill the rest of these gaps here. And even perhaps add some of the strokes. The surface of that wall of the cottage is slightly uneven, quite playful, quite just that light skimming the surface. So having some extra texture picked up here with that light and dark will be good. Okay, right, you can't see that. Let's see if I drop this one down. Okay, better. So it's slightly lighter, darker. Cross. So perfect line. So try not to have too many sharp borders of that light and dark. Overall, so yeah, this side need to stay darker than our sky. Okay. It's still a shadow. We'll make it a bit lighter than the photograph, it's fine, but just try not to make it competing with the sky. Lovely. Right, and for our another white shadow on the right-hand side, the one we postponed, I'm going to use any of those palette blues and some violet. Palette blues means that it's only a small amount of blue in it. If there is a bit of black, that's fine as well, just from that palette color. Okay, I'm gonna place it to see how it appears, and then I'm gonna make my decision on that. Okay, it looks quite light. And I'm not seeing the right. I think that's would be quite nice. Right, so that's a tiny bit less direct freshness of violet. I was considering adding some ochre to it. Perhaps as we apply the colors, we'll do that, but so far, let's keep it as it is. If you want to add a tiny bit of light towards the top of the building, had a minuscule amount of white there. So it's almost like a visual illusion with reflection there, but there is tiny bit of white at the top. The light often kind of gets reflected from other surfaces or from itself on the top part of the building. That might work well. And again, that edge of the roof, because I left a little line for it, it's already keeps it, gives it a roof immediately. Okay. So big block there, and now I'm ready to go for my fresher whites. I'm going to wash my brush. If I wanted to use the same one, just wash it roughly because it will have some, I want tiny bit of blue present in it. So again, some fresh oil, loads of fresh white. Reasonably thick white. We don't want to be runny white because we want a solidness of that color. So far I'm just softening my white. And I'll have a tiny bit of ultramarine. Thinking of tiny bit of coolness in it rather than cerulean. And it's going to be so minor. You're probably not going to see it on my palette, but it will reflect that extra coolness on the surface of our painting. So there is a little elongated mark of white here. Looks like there's another shape to the roof or something. There is a gap between, well, there's a drain pipe for the rainwater, so maybe we'll leave some space for that. Just don't want these whites to be perfectly aligned. Put something darker there so they're not aligned eventually. And I'll sketch it down because I have less oil on my brush, mainly paint. It will be quite easy to just drag it down. Keep topping up my ultramarine here so still appears very white on the board, but I definitely can see that blue, but it just with an overwhelming volume of dark violet background, it keeps behaving differently. Okay, quite solid application there. I've got a little wobble here. That's quite good to have. So if you got any wobble, just leave them. It doesn't have to be in specific places. They will help us to show more natural appearance of the shapes. And also we do want some of the shapes appear and disappear. There is perhaps a little exit for the gas, so the heat comes out from one area. So what I might do, I might just bear it in mind and take some of that paint off, or some of that perfection of the lines. If I use a clean brush and some oil or dabs, just have a little softer. I think that's too soft brush for it. Need to wash my brush from too much white. So all I want to do is, yes, we'll have some extra darknesses here, but I want to have variety of soft and sharp edges. So perhaps this corner will have just that. So there is a tension there. Perhaps there will be more tension around the pot of flowers, but in the middle, it will be just a little blend. Same, can I make a little blend with oil or turbs either? Maybe on the corners here, maybe that will be a sharper corner, maybe a little bit of sharpness there, but further down, just want to have that lost and found edges. So It also shows the softness of some of the corners, so it's not a sharp, perfect border. It's been a quirky plastered cottage. Down a bit back for this connection of the drain pipe and its shadow. Okay, that's will be enough there for me. Okay, maybe that fresh white. Just will adjust how much white I want to have here and the height. So if we soften in color with dabs of oil, meaning not softening just by the color, you will have much softer, you can come back with thicker paint over very easily. That's much exciting. So I've got some sharpness of the top, something soft and disappearing, a bit more sharpness again, and then again some bits of softness. Maybe I'll have more sharpness at the base next to the plant, so maybe this is going to stay much softer as well. Again, that helps us to work that light, that texture of the wobbly cottage wall where that white appears. Okay. So I have a flat surface and I've got quite textured big shape here. Once I've placed all of my surfaces, I'll make a decision. If it's too much, maybe I'll summarize it a little bit, but I think that's where my texture will come in, and texture on my trees will come in when the rest of the buildings could stay more plain. Okay, so that's my initial plan. Here I can see some extra white with maybe tiny bit of dab of Naples yellow. I think that's light will work next well here next to the dark surface. Okay, just something suggestive what that's going to be. Okay, good. Right, so this time let's have a look at the medium tones. I'm going to pick up a smaller brush, a medium to small one, and I also just squeeze some cadmium red. Cadmium orange will be good as well, whichever you might have. And I'm interested now to work with my cottages here. Now the central, I don't know if it's the same cottage or if it's broken into two parts, but central one got a lot of that beautiful reds, oranges colors. But the corner cottage here has a white wall, but because of the rooftops and other light reflecting into that, it looks quite pale. Sorry, it looks quite red. Yeah, a little bit paler than the other one. So let's look, and they're all kind of a medium darkness. So let's look at those medium darkness and then come back to the highlights of the warmth. So a little bit of oil on my brush. I'm going to go for the glowing effect. Now, looking at the photograph, there are loads of very dark colors, a bit dull. So I want to improve on that, and I want to bring more stronger pigments, a bit more bolder pigments. So cadmium yellow, a dab of white as usual, cadmium red, That will give me a much stronger orangey color than my magenta. I will use magenta later on as well, but I think that will be quite strong together. I want it reasonably dark, don't want it super light. Okay, and let's place it kind of midway of the cottage, maybe a tiny bit more darker. That's where magenta will be coming in to cool it down a little and make it slightly darker. Okay, let's have a dab of violet. That's where the cadmium red is tricky with the use of violet, and magenta, and a dab of white. So if we try not to mix too much cadmium red with violet, it will just give you loads of darker browns and browns. Let's stay with a bit of extra color. Okay, that's better. So they can border and gently blend together, but try not to directly mix them. Or if you have to, just a small amount, which is not going to overwhelm your painting ideally. Okay, because we want that glow of light. Okay, a bit more magenta. We can insert that cadmium red on top. Okay, stronger magenta. Looks like a glow of shadows and light within the building itself. You can also use a more diluted color because we have a beautiful dark background. And if we want a little extra violet, we don't have to use it as a paint. We can use it as the background color. So I'm going to use this red I have made from magenta and a bit of yellow, a bit of white, maybe even a dab of ochre, but more transparent now. Okay, that's good. Might just have extra oil here. Okay. Maybe this rooftop will come up a little higher for me. And I can bring some color, extra color into that. So the surface is wet. So if I'll go with fresh magenta, can I almost just place it, wiggle it into the surface, have that glow of light. And can I have a little extra white, yellow, crimson? Just want to play with some of these shadows and lights. Maybe a dab, just varying that playfulness of color. Okay, maybe a bit more extra ochre. Just gonna see if my camera can be adjusted. It does look quite bold yellow, but it is just a nice softer ochre here. Just a tiny bit more now, adjust my camera. Okay, and we can almost use a little brickwork. We wanted to do some texture. If it's too much, it's okay. Just keep it plain. Maybe place another little pattern work. Okay, we're gonna have some trees here. I think I could do with extra light here, maybe Naples yellow. If I'll wipe my brush with from previous color, a little bit of freshness. I want to put a dab here, so it will start glowing. Again, that skimming light is just behind the corner. I'm trying to see an overall picture of this area. Okay. Any more ochre an area below? There's that fence we were establishing in light. Might need to glow. Just little sub lights. Okay, that's quite strong, but I quite like it, so I might keep it. Okay. So slowly establishing those spaces, those colors. And then we said we're gonna have a bit of whitish pink. So I think that will be just my fresh white and magenta. Maybe less fresh magenta, maybe just playful magenta. Let's see how that pink will work. I think if I use any of my orangey color with magenta, I think it just will be a little more in place, or maybe a bit of oil, maybe it's more transparent layer. Don't want the white glowing there. I want the texture staying plain, or a little bit of texture, doesn't matter, but it's the darkness I'm interested in. Okay, that's good. And then I can put some fresh, that magenta I was mixing with white, a bit more stronger, bolder. Then I can increase that. So oily surface and a little bit more solid. Can use a dab of violet with it as well. Mm-hmm. Better. Just don't want that perfection of light. But the super fresh white can show again uneven surfaces, maybe light going over some more drain pipes, maybe some again over window shapes. That's lovely. To make the windows glow and start seeing shapes better, let's help ourselves with some paler blue for the window ledges. So if I'll use I think ultramarine and some white. Let's put tiny bit more darker strokes for any window frames inside. Okay, or is a little reflection on the window, and then slightly lighter version, not white or not super jumpy white, but a little lighter on the base. I do like the darker line underneath. Maybe I'll have to come back to it. Okay, good. Maybe slight adjustment of light by the window here. Sometimes the corners are just glowing a bit more. It's fine. Let's smudge this corner. Don't want that white coming through. Just fixing my corner here, which had a few flicks of light. Okay, just wanted to calm. I don't want it taking too much attention now. Okay, it's fine. So then the window is good. For our windows not to stay flat and boring, if you'll have a diluted oil with a little bit of any of our warm colors or cool colors, we'll just, okay, that looks quite light. Maybe my paint wasn't diluted enough. It just shows something a little more inside, just shows a little sharpness or softness. Yeah, that window becomes more natural. Okay, that's a little too dark. Okay, that's better. And I can do a small nuance because it's such a key building. I'm touching it up a little extra to see how things are working here. That underlined window edge, bit of extra darkness here. Okay, that darkness didn't happen. Okay, good. Very nice. So I'm using a bit of so I'm using for the darkness a little bit of violet and indigo and just some extra oil. Let's work on the similar darknesses for under the rooftop. We haven't quite done the roof, we've done overall darkness, but if we do the darkness underneath of it, we can then place the actual tiles. Again, it just takes the pressure off what stays slightly lighter, or if it needs something sharpening. Okay, that's good. Right, I'm ready to do some lighter tones and rooftops. So let's come back to the block of this light and then let's do the rooftops. So clean a brush to get our more ochre and Naples yellow part of the extension of the cottage. So I'm getting a clean brush now ready. And quite solid. It's nice and runny surface there, which will be really good to work on top now. So some fresh white, some fresh Naples yellow. And let's place it. Okay, maybe tiny bit of ochre here. Tiny bit of yellow here. Want to have that color singing, so maybe part of that shape will have a little extra yellow or a little extra ochre or more into the fresh Naples yellow. So kind of variations, soft, but changes can be shown overall. But if you do just plain color, that would be absolutely fine as well. We need that calmness as well. So if there is a color variation, it needs to be quite close in darkness. So that's more flatter color. Let's just put a tiny bit of ochre here. And that will be offsetting my shadow as well. Okay. I just make it a little longer than it is. And I want some fresh Naples yellow here at the top. And again, anything we want to do to the windows with that off gray, just something not hugely. I'm going to leave quite a lot of existing background for it, but smudging it, kind of the palette color is all good. Maybe an even surface. Again, maybe the door is open, maybe it is a door, maybe there's a space. There's something going on here with overlapping shapes, so maybe I'll soften some of that white of the wall next to it, so it's a little more suggestive. And it's rooftop. So far I've got a very dark line. Again, just some extra oil and a little smudge of the color makes it less bold, sharp. If there's some corners which are sharp, which is brilliant, but it's not all the same. That just gives us that depth. Okay, and then I'll put a fresh yellow and cadmium red tiles. We're coming up to the tiles now anyway. So let's place some of that over. Let's all show we are looking for the details and a little more of a shadow below. That's small details. If you just do a flat wall, it will be absolutely fine as well. If we'll do a little extra details, as this is our focal point, that's a bonus. Okay, because we're going to keep the rest quite loose here. Right, rooftops. So the color we'll just be mixing now: yellow, cadmium orange, white. Let's place some thicker strokes. Doing the dabs, doing the strokes, direct strokes. I could have it quite flat. Okay, I can't quite see that. Maybe something stronger in color. Okay. Because one central house has a lot of red in it, I'll try to make its roof slightly more into cooler pinks or something extra with white, so it doesn't have as much red. This other house, which has a pink white wall, maybe I'll deliberately make it extra red and orange. Just something playful. It doesn't have to be too precise, but I will get a darker shadow under that rooftop. Violet and indigo, violet and Payne's gray. So smudge as I'm applying it against other surfaces, wet surfaces, any other shadows. I might even try a little bit of violet and magenta to see if I do a tiny bit of texture. Sometimes it just spoils it. I'm gonna give it a go. Okay, I want to stay focused on the other shapes. Okay, that might be enough. And the base of this. Okay, that's good. Yeah, don't want too precise or super dark tones. I'd prefer to have my orangey color placed on top so they are slightly narrow. Maybe I should have done it earlier. Place them slightly darker tones first and then extra light colors over. Okay, they started smudging. Fresh, thicker color. And then just placement. Because there's a lot of things going on around and on that rooftop. Okay, that's better. Some sort of suggestion, but not too much. Might even go for a dab of highlights of white to show it's, again, light is catching at the top. Okay, that's a little more playful. Oh, wrong place. That's where I wanted that light to mark. Let's paint it over. So tones reads better than texture. Tones always first before texture. If it doesn't work, come back to tones at any point. Right, let's do some more pinks for the other roof, I need more white for that. And I'll use, as I said, more magenta to keep it into the pink. Magenta and white. Quite a lot of white. Again, I've not washed my brush, so the earlier color is partially present, so it doesn't look perfect. Clean magenta, it will react with the colors we already have here. Okay, I think a little bit stronger darkness. Otherwise it starts appearing more as pink, sorry, as whitish. No, it's too light. Okay, experiment continues. More magenta, more cadmium red. Okay. Okay, that's better. So again, pattern, I'm not sure if it's working for me. Here, tone works better. Okay, a little bit of extra flatness to it as well. Maybe I'll just do some scratching. That's working much better. Looks a little solid and too precise, but by the time I put some extra strokes over it, we just have enough darkness to kind of to have it as part of that texture. Okay, and maybe small amount of warmth at the top. Naples yellow is our color. I think will do the trick. Yeah, my color's staying a little more diluted than I wanted to see it. I want to see it more solid. I think because of it, it doesn't look so strong in its depth. Let's see. Increasing of the color. Okay, that's lovely. I think adding it now. It still appears more pink to what I wanted, but I think the volume of my earlier paint and oils taking it too transparent. Good, and let's do some shadows. Shadow on the ridge and shadow using some violet. Because I've lost it, got it wide and wide, and I thought that's okay, just keep on going. So I'm gonna put some fresh violet because we've got a lot of color here. It will step it, make it less perfect. Dab of Payne's gray to make it less transparent. Unite few shapes here together. Quite a lot of oil, so I'm just painting over it till that shadow remains strong. Okay, I want a sharp edge here. Good. Mhm. Right, anything else? There's some gaps between the buildings. I've widened it up a bit. So that's good work here. And perhaps the chimneys, bit of ochre and violet. They're a little bit darker against the silhouette of the sky. I can put them slight more red at a later point. Okay. Right, stepping away from the painting, just spotting a lot of dark lines of a similar appearance. So let's fix them. I think I just need some fresh oil for to turn it around. So just getting those lines back to its narrower state. So by bringing the color over, so it just narrows it down. Bringing color over to sharpen. That's better already. So easier to block it first and then tidy things up. Maybe stronger. Even color showing there is a depth. Okay, different stone, slightly different color. Quite like it light. It has more oak in it, but I think if I'll put two lighter blocks, and that shadow is too strong. So I might have to soften it. That's better as well. Still playing if the rooftop. I'm really happy with my houses, but still tweaking the rooftops. Want to see it really reading well together. At the moment, it's building up. It's not quite finished. Maybe those whites are too strong. Maybe there's not enough of that light. Okay, that's giving me a bit of hope of light traveling across. Okay, that's a bit better. I think I'll tone this one down more to orange. And that's working as well now. Okay. So it says trial and error. It's staying confident and experimenting. It doesn't have to be everything is wrong to feel something not quite right. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to go for after a lot of fixing. Quite like the lesser separation between those two cottages. Maybe more separation at the top. Okay. Good. I think we need a little lighter tones behind our cottages to see the hills. So then all the greens will start coming together as well. I'm going to bring it a little bolder green so it stays. So our shadows color of the background is not, it's not competing with that darker green. So some ochre and a dab of emerald green. So it's a darkish version of it. Let's place some here. I think that should be a good darkness. You can decide if your chimneys will be slightly lighter or darker. As long as we see the contrast, it's up to you. My chimneys at the moment are staying lighter. Sorry, chimneys are staying darker. The greens behind it is lighter. I just can see if I'll go extra dark, that exciting element of the distance will be lost. Okay, and just to finish it off, maybe slightly darker green. They wanted fluorescent green, so maybe a green and violet, just to finish it off here. More suggestive colors. That's good. I think it might be part of the green behind this corner, but I think it's also might be a building. Let's put a little more of a violet over it. I think it doesn't read well as a green. It just stops on this pole. Or maybe I'll just get rid of the pole completely. Let's try that. A dab of fresh blue. Okay, that's looking good. soften any of these super dark contrasts in the distance. I think a distant roof could work here well as well. Maybe this corner, gonna smudge it. Maybe bring some fresh ultramarine. Hmm? It's looking much calmer. I prefer that more. And that ultramarine gives me an idea of placing part of it on the roof here as well. Might have been a shadow there, but I think it works for me to keep it more plainer. Good. And the distant rooftop. Again, I'm still not done much on the front, but I am aiming to do it reasonably quick. So that focal point of middle distance is still taking my attention. Okay. Less fresh and precise white here. Just a palette color, whatever I had on my brush, just to make that building less perfect. Now everything else is busy in this area. Good, and we're ready for some greens. And finishing off the path. Right, and let's use some quick scooping, kind of big strokes to finish things off. The plan is to touch up perhaps some of the borders of our rooftop, maybe somewhere here, not the rooftop, shadow from the roof, maybe a little bit of the path, integrating our violets with kind of some of the shadows. Then I want to bring some greens in, and then strong highlights, which were identified in the early stages, to finish things off. So this is nice and busy and more played into details. The rest is going to be quite full of texture, a bit of different surfaces, quite playful, quite quick. I have still a smaller brush because I also want to do some of the shadows, a bit more precise shadows here. So clean brush with some maybe diluted violet and ultramarine with a little bit of white, and diluted so we still preserve partially of our background color. So just again keeping some of the corners a little dark, maybe smudging the color from the yellow. Can put it a little bit more thicker maybe in the top and then keep it soft and runny. Okay, and I'll do the same here. I'll leave a little width maybe for the ridge of the roof, because it's one is reflecting, one isn't. It's a little harder to see on the camera at the moment. You can see a slightly thicker layer here, more diluted, and then I'll just blend it so it doesn't have a sharp border with my previous color. Okay. And leading into softening of the other rooftops. Again, maybe it will just blend in partially with roof, so partially with the sky, partially with another roof at the back, just so it's not staying perfect. Okay. Do we want the sharpness here? Maybe we do, but if we don't, we can come back with a soft, with a stronger dark again. Okay. Our violet and indigo and diluted form will just border anything we might want to exaggerate there. Maybe that will just give us tiny bit of tiles color. Mhm. Okay, right, and let's move back to some of these shadows. Let's just soften them with mucky brush of just with oil. Just almost again, I want to prep that surface. I want to keep quite a lot of violet as it is, but if I'll create some texture, if I use any of my palette color, violet, reds, bit of ochre, a bit of crimson, a bit of cadmium red, anything kind of into those darker browns, similar to perhaps some of our color of the board. So any of that diluted color could quickly come in. Can put a little extra ultramarine there as well. To see ultramarine, we'll need a dab of white with it. That will start picking up some reflections of the sky. I'm ignoring my highlights here. I know they will be coming back here quite soon. Any other suggestive surfaces? Perhaps something's here next to my greens. Just a direction, perhaps. Could have more of that pale ultramarine halfway through the path because that white building will be absolutely massively influences on the colors. So mainly keeping it how our initial background was, always similar colors, always diluted paint. Okay, maybe those are the parts of the soil, maybe some steps, maybe there's something else there. All right, and this corner is quite dark, so maybe violet again. Any strong contrasts. Yeah, maybe some part of that gardening, something. We don't need to know exactly. Don't like that perfection of that line, so let's work quickly with one of the strokes to reduce it. Maybe that's where the blue will come in and just keep it more suggestive. Okay, and then final greens are ochre, emerald green for the lighter tones, and perhaps any of our blues with some ochre, dab of violet for our darker tones. Overall, there's a lot of browns, there are quite a lot of rainy strokes. So let's just block, 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 and then put some highlights on top of that. Okay, any of that green, slightly darker version. Mixing it well. Okay, our pot, I've forgotten about our flower pot here as well, but similar, bit of extra green. And then some highlighted green. Little dabs for leaves for the pot plant. That would be enough. And a little more well mixed light green in strategical places where the light comes. Just on the tips of some of these areas, making the strokes tiny bit smaller as they're closer to distant buildings, and a little more. I just have to hide part of this segment. I think I'll put more trees here. That's it. And my highlights, my final highlights are gonna finish things off. So white, strong Naples yellow, and let's just go for it extra charged with some cadmium yellow, or just that initial white and Naples yellow. So a little in here. Nice chunky strokes. Okay, see how the thickness of the paint start being applied against the wet surface, and just vary those widths and vary those shapes slightly. Okay, I had little dips of light somewhere here. Maybe I'll even find another one. And that fresh white. Let's place those beautiful shadows, so lights from the gaps of the fence. The fresher we can do them, the better, kind of the less smudgy they are. Okay, my pot highlights on the pot will show that that is a pot. Maybe where it stands on. I think these lights are too strong, so they're going now. That's okay. That's good. Right, anything else looking over the whole painting? There's some few extra drainage pipes, but I think I don't need them. I could work with tiny bit of something darker here, but I don't think I want to take it all the way across. Doorway looks fine. Few windows I haven't touched too much. I've lost a little extension building here, but I think it's for the best for me here. Okay, anything else? Just double checking what's sharper here and what's less sharp. That's all good as well. I think I might give it a little bit more time on my flower pot. And also as the colors settle, I think I might consider slightly lighter shadow, meaning just a hint of maybe red in it. Yeah, maybe a bit better like this. So there isn't a variety of shadow color, but more unity to that. Okay, that's better. So it looks like the light coming from similar source with a similar. Okay, that's looking good. Dot and dot, too many dots. So let's unify that as well. Okay, and perhaps a tiny bit of blue here as well. Not the green blue, but more cooler ultramarine blue. That's better, that's a good one. Right, so that's a nice cooling color for this corner. Again, perhaps reflecting the light from here. I think I might just unite all of that area as well. That's it, I'm liking it more now. Some of the darker marks here, maybe even showing some of the branches, or that's all extras. Good, just double checking. Variety happens there, that's all good. Right, and I'm going to stop. So we've got a nice sunny day. Again, as I said, I'll play a tiny bit more with my flower pot here, and perhaps when it dries, just check if the top of the roofs here next to the green hills, if they need a little extra white, to make them extra shiny there. But we've got some wonderful, exciting color. We worked into those big shapes first, and then it's given us the path of how to paint it, what to focus more, and what to work quite quickly to create some extra texture. So thank you very much for today. I hope you enjoyed the session today, and I look forward to seeing you.